Hey folks, this is Steve Bradley, God's Wordsmith, and today we're going to talk about the Thompson Chain Reference Bible. Now, this is the second granddaddy of study Bibles. It was produced almost at the same time as the Scofield Reference Bible, in fact, possibly slightly before it, and it reflects a lot of the kind of study that they did in the early 20th century, which is very careful study without computers and so on. So let's get into it. Let's look. So the Thompson Chain Reference Bible is one of the oldest study Bibles available, and it's almost alone in its perspective and value. I have more of these in different translations than any other study Bible, and I taught from either the NIV or KJV in it for years, and I found it very helpful. Unlike the Scofield, the Thompson has very few actual annotations. The Scofield is full of notes, but the Thompson has topical material, introductory material, and places you can go to research for yourself. It's sort of like buying a whole chicken as opposed to skinned and deboned chicken breast. The whole chicken has a lot more to it, but it takes time and effort to fully appreciate what's there, while the chicken breast is sort of an immediate fix. The Thompson takes a bit of work, and it is a wonderful research tool. It doesn't have everything in it because it's just one volume. It's compact, but it does grow with you. So is it better than an annotated Bible? Well, that's pretty much up to you, and it kind of depends on what you're looking for. Now, the main feature of the Thompson is its numbering system. In the Thompson, the numbers control everything. All the topics, all the helps, they're number coded. The numbers are roughly alphabetical, and I don't mean 100%, and that's only for the original edition, and then the additional helps are also number coded with everything indexed. The last set of numbers is not tied to the alphabet, but to the order in which the helps are placed. The Thompson numbers are well over 4,000. I think I saw 4308 when I was looking through it just a moment ago. And the majority of them are topics that Dr. Thompson found in the scriptures. He tried not to read into them, but if you're human, that's kind of hard to do. And it's hard to even imagine the work that this all took, because in the early 1900s, there were no computers. There was only your brain and possibly reference cards, maybe index cards or slips of paper. So there are actually a couple of study helps that were created this way originally. One of them being the Nave's Topical Bible, another being the Strong's Concordance. And Nave also had a study Bible, but it is not nearly so useful and easy to use as the Thompson, which of the Bibles of its kind is by far the easiest to use and also one of the most complete. So this is just kind of an analysis of what the Thompson has in it. And here's a Thompson number example. The numbers begin with A for Aaron, and they go from there. And this is a picture of the first book of Samuel and how it's set up. The preceding page should give you an idea of the basic structure of the Thompson. Double column text, additional information on both margins, and these add-ins are mostly the topics that Dr. Thompson found in the text. The Bible includes a cyclopedia, that's his word, to the information in the Thompson, a study guide, book outlines, summaries of great Bible personages' lives, some of them in tree format, an archaeological supplement, a glossary for the KJV of currently unused words, a concordance, which is key to the topics, a decent set of maps, and you have to remember that older maps are not too useful due to the changes in the Middle East in the 20th and 21st century. In short, if you can't find it in the Thompson, you probably didn't look hard enough. Now that's sort of an exaggeration, but not a big one. I've found a few things in my Strong's Concordance that I couldn't find in the Thompson. So here are the pros. There is lots of useful material, and it's probably more than any other single volume elsewhere, unless you're thinking of notes. Thompson doesn't have many notes. It does, however, have research tools from which you can make your own. Now the cons are these. Sometimes it's a bit hard to use because it can be a little overwhelming to some. The print is small, that is, unless you buy the large print version, which weighs about 50 pounds, it seems. The marginal print is even smaller, and personally I don't mind any of these things. What I do is I just put on my reading glasses, 1.75 or 2 diopter, and suddenly the print is big enough. Now the versions other than the KJV are not quite as well done, but they're very good. And there is a hidden problem here. You'll be missing some alternate translations. Thompson has some, but not as many as a standard center column cross-reference Bible. The topics absorb many of the standard cross-references, but add many more in other formats. Other versions may be better for word studies. They certainly are. And I'm going to be talking about the Net Bible sometime soon, which is the very best Bible you can get for word study, translated as a completely new version and with notes you cannot believe. It's just amazing. Now that's for if you don't know or use the original languages. My personal reaction to the Thompson is this. Well, I have 5 of them, 4 in different translations. King James, I have 2, including a large print one. NIV, first edition NIV, I won't use the second. New American Standard Bible, in 1977, it didn't come out in the 1995, and the New King James Version, and I believe there's one I don't have in the English Standard Version. I have used the Thompson more than any other study Bible, and for good reason. I can go to it and find material in it about virtually any topic I want to talk about or think about. I only recently have begun to use online resources more, and there are times the Thompson is simply irreplaceable. And to just put it bluntly, if I had one English Bible that I could take to a desert island and I was not allowed any other books, it would be the Thompson. So here is the opening page, and you can see the Chain Reference Bible, 5th Improved Edition, and since you're going to be looking at this on a larger screen, it can be much larger. And what I recommend that you do as you go through this is that you pause it and look at the material that it presents. I'm going to be going through it much faster than I should because I have many more slides than normal. So here is a preface to the Thompson and Chain Reference Bible. It's somewhat explanatory, and the description of contents, and then it talks about the analytical and synthetic system of Bible study, which basically provides you with Dr. Thompson's philosophy. It's very good. And here is an index of the Comprehensive Bible Helps. There's also a much longer index in the back, but this is the short index in the front, and you can access all kinds of information from that. Here is the River of Inspiration, the Old and New Testaments. And Dr. Thompson believed, as I do, and other people who are true Christians do, that the Bible is the inspired Word of God. 1 Timothy 3:16 says all Scripture is given by inspiration of God. All Scripture, says the NIV, is God-breathed. Believe it, use it, understand it, and it'll save your soul and your life. All right, so here is the first page of the book of Genesis. And the first thing you see, I've pointed to it in blue, is the author and book analysis, and there's also a summary in italics that's just basically at the front of many of the older editions of the King James Version. There are numbered topics here and alternate readings, and there are lots of other goodies on other pages and indeed on this one. So the Thompson Comprehensive Bible Helps is a complete system of biblical studies in 8 departments, he says, and he's right. It's a complete system. Here is the general index, and here is where you're going to find just about everything that's in the Thompson. And the interesting thing about that is it's not only very good, it's very complete. So I think you'll like it if you buy one and use it. And here's what I recommend. Sometimes you'll see one in a library that you can actually take out of the library and use for a little bit. And if you can, I would recommend you do that. Here are some other materials on the index, and I apologize for the lack of clarity in my photography. The camera just wasn't focusing quite as well as it should have. And you'll see things like branch Christ A, that's on the second column, that's in almost the center of the Bible. And then it talks about brands from the burning. In other words, what happens if you are rescued by the grace of God and you have had a terrible life. You're saved from hell. And then here's a condensed encyclopedia of topics and texts. And this is kind of the meat of the Thompson, because what this does, instead of you having to go and look up every verse, it'll actually give you many of them all printed out just for you. It's very useful. Had an old friend back in the days when I was in seminary about 1,000,000 years ago, 50 to be exact. 55 I started. But anyway, when I was in seminary, I had this friend named Ernst Meyer, and Ernst was a good student. He was here from Germany, went to Grace Seminary, brilliant fellow, and he wanted to get a doctorate in theology because in Germany you're not respected unless you have a PhD. So he went through as fast as he could, and his wife Ilse worked, and he told me one time when we were together, we had dinner often, he said, you know, I have a Thompson, because he looked at mine. He said, you can make up sermons from the Thompson in 15 minutes. He says, I used to do funerals, and they would come and they would ask me to do the funeral, and I have to know what I would say. So he told me that what he did is he picked an appropriate topic for the funeral, and he found the topic in the Thompson, and then he gave them the texts from the Thompson. It's kind of cheating, but after all, he was a hungry and starving Bible college student at the time, living in Germany. So here's another detail of the material on the preceding slide. It's part of the condensed encyclopedia. And here you can see lists, not just lists of verses, but the actual verses themselves comprising the material in the Thompson Chain Reference Bible. One of the features of the Thompson, all of them, is its use of simple graphics. And this one is a graphic on the causes of the Babylonian captivity. And of course, if you read the end of 2nd Chronicles, you'll find that the people of Israel, the Jews, simply did not listen to God. They refused to hear what he had to say. And consequently, they fell into terrible sin and idolatry and just about destroyed their existence. And God eventually brought them into captivity into Babylon and then back to Judea, a few of them, a remnant. But he gives you the causes and what happened and why. Now here's another thing that you'll see in the Thompson. There are many of these visual biographies. This is the tree of Paul's life, the beginning of his life all the way up to the end. And it's a great study tool next to it, there is a key to the tree of Paul's life. And texts are mostly in the book of Acts, as he says, and it talks about all the things about the Apostle Paul. There's one of Peter, there's one of Moses, I believe there's one of Abraham, there's a long one of Jesus, there's journeys of the Apostle Paul, and an outline of the history of the evangelistic and missionary work in the early church. This is a timeline, kind of gives you an idea of when things happened. And there's also a harmony of the Gospels that I didn't include here because I wound up with 30 slides, and I'm trying very hard to get through this in such a length of time as you can listen without falling asleep. So then he has additional materials: Feasts of the Jews, Hebrew times, seasons, and festivals, the sabbatical year, the year of Jubilee, and he keys all of this to Scripture. If you can imagine sitting down and putting all this together, the guy had to be absolutely brilliant. And if you look up at the top here, it says see Textcyclopedia numbers 3098 to 3102. So he's going to give you a tie-in to just about everything. Here is the arrangement of Solomon's temple. And it talks about where things were and why they were there and what they were and so on. This is the temple that Solomon built to the Lord after King David died. And this is a model of Herod's temple, which was just absolutely astounding from what I read. It's a similar temple to Solomon's, but very much a huge thing in Jewish life in the first century. And then, of course, we have an archaeological supplement, and I apologize, my camera just stopped focusing. Probably I didn't wait long enough before I took the picture. It's a little slow because it's an older camera. But anyway, there it is. And you have an archaeological supplement, and it considers most of the key archaeological things that they knew up to, I don't know, the 1990s or something. And here is a glossary. This is very helpful if you read the King James Version. You can go back and you can look and see what those old unused words are. And because I read a lot of English when I was in high school and college, I don't normally need it, but occasionally I'll need to go back and just find out what that word meant. And that'll be good if you are using the King James. By the way, I don't not recommend the King James. It's a good version. It's just old. If you like a newer version, a modern version, I was an early adopter of modern versions with the New American Standard. As soon as it came out, I got a copy. And I got a copy first of the New Testament and then ultimately of both the New and Old Testaments. And I still have them. They were the New and Old Testament was my seminary Bible. Okay, so here is the key to the topical study of the Thompson Chain Reference Bible, and that is also the concordance. So if you want to look up a word, like for example, the word foe, enemy, or if you want to look up a word like righteousness, you can find all of this material and you can find the word in there in the concordance, but you'll also find the list of the topical subjects. And once again, that is fairly complete. And so here's a key. It says new arrangement links concordance with the other helps, and that was not true of the earlier builds of the Thompson. I think they did that about the 4th improved edition, and then I have the 5th improved edition. It's just very good. And then here is a sample of the concordance. It shows the numbering scheme. If you look at it in here, you can kind of see that the major things, the major numbers, the things that Dr. Thompson considered part of his topical system, they're all listed along with the words. And then here, here is a list of maps. And maps are more important than you think. A good set of maps will give you an understanding of where things happened. Nobody really understands the Bible until they have some idea of what that land was like. So you should use your maps and study them. And if you see a reference to a location, find that location somehow. And this gives you the opportunity to do just that. And here is a map index detail. It shows you which pages everything's on. And this is the one thing that doesn't appear to be tied to the topics. I think there are some things that actually are, but not very many of them. And then here's a sample of the map. The archaeological sites in Palestine and so on. You will enjoy this book if you buy it. I have no doubt, but be aware that it's a book that you use for research. You can carry it, of course, a lot of people do. And a lot of people have only that Bible, and they've had only that Bible for, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. And one of the guys I watch from time to time on YouTube, Matthew Everhard, his father-in-law, before he passed, he had a Thompson Bible that he carried and used all the time, and it was all marked up. You know, he showed it to his viewers once, and it's just an amazing thing because this guy, who was also a pastor, had this Bible, and he used it daily. So, should you buy it? Well, it kind of depends on what you want. If what you want is annotations, this is not that. Now, sometimes that is what you really need. Sometimes you just need annotations to help you understand things like the word redemption, for example, or the significance of the cross, or what sin is, or what happened in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve ate the fruit. All of that is in annotations. But if you're willing to work to learn, this is a good choice if you have the time. Now, as you can see, this book is unique. You really can't find the same assemblage of material anywhere else that I know of. I'm sure there may be something, but I don't know about it if there is. It is somewhat dated. The topics, for example, some of them are expressed in kind of old-timey language, but not really, since the Bible is a universal book and speaks to every age and circumstance. Now, I've used the King James Version for this study. Some of the other editions, the New King James and so on, differ just a bit in the material that they offer, but they're all very good. If you like a particular version and you want the Thompson, get the Thompson in that version. You probably won't know the difference. Now, I've already mentioned the main cons, but if you do buy it, folks, please take time to use what it offers. Don't just buy it and look up the topics. Go to the back and study David. Go to the back and study the life of Jesus. There's a wonderful Bible harmony, which is basically a life of Christ kind of laid out in a timeline. You can do this with the Thompson. Now, some material takes work. It's not the kind of Bible that you just sit down and it instantly tells you everything. And no Bible will do that, because the Bible is one of those books. It's created by the infinite God through his prophets. So guess what? It has some complexity to it. It's self-authenticating. It's self-interpreting. And the other thing about it is it's 2,000 years old. It's newest material. So you have to work to get it no matter what you're doing. And if you study and you say to yourself, wow, I can't get this, then get a different version. Get the New Living Translation. Get the New International Version. Get the Good News Bible. Some of those I don't personally like, but they're good if you don't know the Bible. If you can't understand the King James language, please don't buy it just because I use the King James in this particular study. The reason I don't want you to is because if you have not used it before and if you don't know it and like it, it can be hard to get into. However, the Thompson as a whole, because of its different versions, is actually pretty accessible. And as you can see, I've used mine a lot. I've sat down with it and studied the topics. I've sat down with it and studied the tree of Paul's life, of Jesus' life, and so on and so forth. Look for the next recommendations, by the way, which will be interspersed with more teaching on the Gospel by Luke. And what I'll probably do is alternate. I'll do an annotated Bible and then one where you have to do a little more work. So if you like what you see, check it out on christianbook.com. There is a company that sells only King James Version Bibles. They are committed to that, called Church Bible Publishers, and they publish really nicely bound Bibles. I have one. I've had more than one. I gave one away. And, they're very nice. So you may wish to avail yourself of Church Bible Publishers. And if you want to just look them up on christianbook.com, I believe that Zondervan bought the rights to the Thompson somewhat recently. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. God bless all of you. And this is Steve Bradley, God's Wordsmith, signing off for today. God bless you.